Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a look at one of the most famous, probably the most feared, and definitely the most misunderstood patches of ocean on the entire planet. We're going to strip away all the Hollywood movies, look right past the campfire ghost stories, and dig directly into the source material. We want to uncover the actual evolution of the Bermuda Triangle. We'll start with those eerie sea legends that have terrified sailors for literally centuries, and then, using real data, we're going to pivot to the incredibly fascinating scientific truths that explain what's actually happening out there in the dark waters.
To really understand the fear surrounding this place, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of a 19th century sailor. Picture this. It's the year 1881. The ship Ellen Austin is sailing from Liverpool to New York. As they enter the Atlantic Sargasso Sea, the wind just dies. A thick fog rolls in out of nowhere, and drifting right there in the haze, they spot an entirely abandoned ship. So Captain Griffin sends a boarding party over to check it out, and what they find is chilling. All the valuable cargo is still there, untouched, yet there isn't a single person to be found anywhere. So Captain Griffin puts a crew on this ghost ship to tow it back. But a violent storm suddenly hits, separating the two vessels. When the weather finally clears, they find the ship again. But Griffin's men? They've vanished into thin air too. No bodies, no signs of a struggle, just pure, inexplicable silence.
So, where exactly is this terrifying stretch of water? Well, the Bermuda Triangle isn't actually drawn on any official world map, but it's generally understood as a massive 500,000 square mile zone. To picture it, just draw a triangle linking the southeastern coast of Florida up to Bermuda and back down to Puerto Rico. And over the centuries, mostly because of the sheer volume of these chilling incidents, it's picked up some pretty ominous nicknames. We're talking the Isle of Devils, the Twilight Zone, and the Limbo of the Lost.
Okay, let's actually dive right into the historical timeline here, because what's absolutely incredible is the sheer scale and the momentum of this mystery. This isn't just some modern phenomenon born out of the internet age. These strange disappearances and anomalies, they span centuries. I mean, we literally have Christopher Columbus reporting bizarre events way back in 1492. Fast forward nearly 400 years to the Ellen Austin ghost ship in 1881. Then, the mystery really escalates into the 20th century when the massive USS Cyclops disappears in 1918, and it even takes to the skies with Flight 19 in 1945. It's just this relentless historical drumbeat of vanishing.
Let's take a closer look at that 1492 entry from Christopher Columbus. Now, you might just think of him as an explorer, but his diaries documented journey right through the heart of this treacherous zone. He wrote that as his ships entered the area, the weather turned completely terrifying. His compass needles began spinning wildly out of control. In the pitch-black night, he recorded seeing these mysterious lights dancing on the horizon and a thick carpet of seaweed that literally threatened to trap his ships completely. But honestly, the most chilling entry is his description of seeing a huge ball of fire falling straight from the sky into the depths of the ocean.
But, behind all this myth is a staggering human toll. 306. In March 1918, right during the height of the First World War, the U.S. Navy's massive flagship cargo vessel, the USS Cyclops, set sail. On board were 306 people, alongside 10,800 tons of explosive manganese. As they entered the Bermuda Triangle, radio contact simply stopped. The U.S. Navy searched every single corner of the Atlantic for nearly 90 days, but they found absolutely nothing. No distress signal, no wreckage, no survivors. 306 lives, entirely swallowed by the ocean. It really proved that even the Navy's most powerful, modern warships weren't safe from whatever was hiding out there.
And then, in 1945, these invisible forces turned their dreadful gaze toward the sky. Let's look at the tragic fate of Flight 19. We're talking about 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers, manned by 14 highly experienced crew members, taking off from Florida for a totally routine practice run in perfect, clear weather. But suddenly, all of their compasses malfunctioned at the exact same time. The pilot, Lieutenant Taylor, radioed in that the water below looked wrong. It was white and green instead of blue. They prepared to ditch in the sea, and then, dead silence. They vanished from radar. But wait, it actually gets worse. A 13-person rescue plane was immediately sent out to find them. And guess what? It mysteriously vanished into thin air too. No trace.
So these terrifying, real-world tragedies eventually collided with mid-century pop culture, and the legend absolutely exploded. Back in 1964, a writer named Vincent Gaddis published an article in the pulp magazine Argosy, and he's the one who officially coined the phrase, the deadly Bermuda Triangle. You have to remember the context here. This was an era totally obsessed with sci-fi, aliens, and strange conspiracies. The public was just hungry for mysteries. Fast forward 10 years, and Charles Berlitz publishes his 1974 bestseller titled simply The Bermuda Triangle, which went on to sell millions of copies globally. Basically, the media took these real historical tragedies and spun them into a massive, sensationalized global franchise.
And the stories just kept feeding that sensation. Take this mind-bending event from December 4th, 1970. Pilot Bruce Gernon was flying his small plane toward Miami when he noticed a really strange cloud forming into a literal tunnel. As he flew into it, this dense, dirty white fog surrounded him. His electronic instruments and compass started spinning wildly, and his radio completely died. But when he finally burst out of the fog, he was stunned to see he was already right over Miami. A flight that should have taken him 90 minutes took exactly 45 minutes. Think about that. His plane's top speed was 180 miles per hour, but to make that kind of time, he would have had to be traveling over 300 miles per hour. It makes no sense, right? With seemingly impossible events like Bruce Gernon's flight out there, the public imagination naturally ran completely wild. Some incredibly bizarre theories emerged to explain the unexplainable. I mean, we've got everything from wormholes dropping ships into parallel universes to centuries-old legends of giant sea monsters dragging ships down to the depths, and of course, alien abductions and underwater UFO bases. There's even a theory that the ancient sunken city of Atlantis is down there firing off rogue electromagnetic energy crystals. And naturally, we have claims of a secret Area 51-style U.S. government facility making ships disappear just to hide classified experiments. Look, these are incredibly fun campfire stories for sure, but at the end of the day, they remain just that, stories.
Let's pivot to reality for a second, because eventually we really have to separate fact from fiction. And that pivot to scientific reality started in 1975, when researcher Larry Couchet published his groundbreaking book, The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. See, Couchet wasn't interested in aliens or crystals, he was interested in hard data. He spent years meticulously digging through old logbooks, weather records, and newspaper clippings. What he found exposed a massive amount of exaggerated reporting. He discovered that a lot of the ships supposedly lost in the triangle actually sank thousands of miles away. Plus, in many of the famous disappearances, critical information about massive violent storms was just conveniently ignored by writers to make the mystery seem a whole lot spookier.
Couchet's data actually points us toward real scientific dangers in the region, starting with electromagnetic variation. So here's how it works. The Earth actually has two norths. You've got geographic north, which is true north on a map, and magnetic north, which is where a compass needle actually points. Now, usually navigators calculate the difference between the two to stay on track. But the Bermuda Triangle sits right on an agnic line. That is a really rare place where true north and magnetic north perfectly align. For centuries, sailors who didn't fully understand this natural anomaly would trust their compasses blindly, drift way off course, and find themselves stranded. It wasn't dark magic, it was just an invisible navigational trap.
Then there's the incredibly fascinating methane gas theory, which perfectly explains how entire ships could vanish without leaving a single piece of floating wreckage behind. Deep beneath the seabed in this specific region, there are massive deposits of methane gas. If this gas suddenly erupts, acting almost like an underwater volcano, it releases billions of tiny bubbles straight up into the water. This sudden, massive influx of gas sharply reduces the water's density, literally stripping the ocean of its ability to support the weight of a ship. It basically creates a hole in the water, causing the vessel to plummet straight down to the ocean floor in an instant, dragging all its debris right down with it.
We also absolutely cannot ignore the sheer brutal power of the ocean itself. I want you to imagine a towering 100-foot wall of water. These are rogue waves, and they can and do suddenly form right in the triangle. This is an incredibly unpredictable area for storms and weird ocean currents. Under the right conditions, multiple wave patterns can crash together to form a sudden, towering 100-foot wall of water. These extreme storm waves strike with zero warning and are easily capable of completely overwhelming and instantly swallowing even a massive modern cargo vessel. They send it to the bottom before a distress call can even be typed out.
Now, what's really interesting about this next point is how modern meteorology is actually solving decades-old aerial mysteries. Back in 2016, satellite images revealed these strange hexagonal-shaped clouds forming right over the triangle. Scientists call these formations air bombs. When these clouds break open, they blast downward microburst winds at insane speeds of up to 170 miles per hour. When those winds hit the ocean's surface, they create massive turbulence capable of instantly destabilizing a ship. But more importantly for aircraft, they can violently alter a plane's flight path, rocketing it forward. And that specific phenomenon perfectly explains how pilot Bruce Gernon could have been pushed to arrive at his destination in half the expected time, way back in 1970.
So the crucial point is this. How do the people who actually stake their lives and their billions of dollars on ocean safety view this region? Well, the institutional reality really speaks volumes. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration explicitly states that accident rates here are completely normal for such a heavily traveled area. Lloyd's of London, which is one of the biggest maritime insurance markets in the entire world, charges absolutely zero extra insurance premiums for ships crossing the triangle. Why? Because they see no statistical extra risk. And the U.S. Coast Guard? They don't even officially recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a hazardous zone. To the data crunchers, the mystery simply does not exist.
And to put that all into perspective, the Bermuda Triangle isn't even unique in its natural hazards. If we look globally, we see very similar zones of unpredictable weather and ocean currents where ships and planes frequently disappear. You've got the Dragon Triangle in the Pacific Ocean near Japan and the Ambarta region in India. But here is the fascinating scientific truth. All three of these incredibly turbulent regions sit at roughly the exact same latitude on the globe. The only real difference is that the Dragon Triangle and the Ambarta region never had Hollywood movies or pulp fiction bestsellers written about them to hype them up.
Which brings us to a final, sort of provocative question. Why do we prefer the terrifying myth over the fascinating scientific reality? Honestly, the true mystery of the Bermuda Triangle isn't actually found out there in the ocean. It's found in human psychology. It's a reflection of our deep-seated desire to turn ordinary, albeit tragic, natural accidents into extraordinary, supernatural legends. The real science here, the rogue waves, the agonic lines, the methane eruptions, is incredibly captivating on its own. But clearly, a part of us will always love the thrill of the unknown just a little bit more. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the world around you.